Hello and welcome to a lockdown edition of BikeFit Tuesdays. On the agenda today, handlebars? Have we got handlebars?
Well, lots of handlebars. Bike shop. They're going to be questioning next week why I'm wearing the same t-shirt like 2 days in a row.
I've already told them we're filming a bunch today, so we can release them
Filming lots.
when we're locked in the house because of the zombie apocalypse. We've got a bunch of drop handlebars here. Ah, that's what I wanted to see as well.
This is a handlebar. It's what is fitted to the front of the bike. It's what the controls are fitted to, and it allows you to steer for the most part. It's almost your entire frontal interaction with the bicycle. And I think the important thing to understand is that not all handlebars are created equal. They're all slightly different shaped. And just because something is a drop bar, you know, this has this sort of shape on it, doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna work for you. It's worth noting that they come in different widths as well. To a certain extent, the broader the rider, the wider the bar, but not always. I like to usually align the bar width with the shoulder width, and there are ways of measuring for that. Shall I go and get Chris? I can't get Chris. Chris is actually quite a slender guy. What I would usually do is measure across a chromium process. It's the distal point of the scapula, which is your shoulder blade. It's basically these two nodules here. You can tend to be able, you should be able to feel it. And if you measure across those, you might need to get a mate to do it. I'm Chris's mate, so I'm going to do it for him. In this instance, he measures 34, which is a very, very small person. Actually, a lot of women will measure 34. That is generally a really good starting point. Means of understanding whether your handlebar's too wide for you, the single most common one is, rather than riding on the hoods, you have a tendency of rolling the wrists like this. It's usually a means of trying to align the wrist with the shoulder width. So rolling the wrist like this tends to create lots of tension in the neck and the shoulders, so you get tight neck and shoulders. You also start to put quite a lot of pressure on the ulnar nerve, which is what, one of the major nerves of the hand, so you end up getting numb hands. What we want is to encourage you to be on the controls the whole time. If you aren't comfortable on the controls, on the hoods, then something's wrong. Either the bar is too wide, or the reach is too long.
So if Chris measures 34 centimeters from there to there, that means he needs to be going for a 34 centimeter bar.
Yes, 34 centimeter bar you can't really get anymore. There was a period where Specialized made a 36 centimeter bar that actually measures 34. Now, one important thing to consider here, when I say the size of a handlebar, I'm talking about a center to center measurement, right? So this is actually a 38 centimeter bar, right? Now, this is where it gets confusing, because when you read sizes on a company's website, there will be a sizing, but you've also got to look at how it's measured. This is a 40 centimeter 3T handlebar, but it measures 38, all right?
So measure it yourself.
Measure it yourself, yeah, is the best way of going about it. Most average size riders' bikes will come with a 42 centimeter bar. My finding is that's too wide for 80% of the population. The single most common handlebar width I sell for men is a 40 centimeter. For women, it's between 36 and 38. Actually, it's a bit of a balance. And think about yourself. If you're a more slender individual, you're possibly going to need a more slender handlebar. Likewise, if you're a broader individual, you're going to need a broader handlebar. On the broader side of things, I mean, handlebars really go 36, 38, 40, 42, and 44. I can count on one hand the amount of 44s I've fitted. They're pretty uncommon, usually to big rugby types, like guys who are really, really broad, but that's generally a good starting point, is to match the shoulder width to the handlebar width.
What about handlebar reach? So how long the handlebar is?
Should we demonstrate to the viewers what reach is?
Yeah.
Let's do it on this bar because it's one of the longest reach bars money can buy. This is a Bontrager VRC handlebar. It's what you'll get. It's a bar that will come on most of the Trek models. I think I really like this as a shape of a handlebar, but it does have one quite negative impact on a lot of riders, and by way of adding a significant amount of reach. Now, when we talk about reach, we're talking about center from the center of the bar bore to basically where the control is located on the handlebar. And by altering this distance, you can influence the reach of the bike by up to 30 mil. Right? So when I say the reach of the bike, we always measure from the nose of the saddle to the back of the control. It's a precise measurement of how the rider interacts with the bicycle. Measuring from the nose of the saddle to the center of the handlebar is a waste of time for this exact reason, because this measurement can stay the same, center of the bar to the nose of the saddle, whereas this measurement could change, right? Just by changing the handlebar and also by changing the controls. More on that later on. Something that you need to consider when buying a handlebar is the reach will differ from bar to bar. If you put something like this on, or 3T makes a handlebar called an Aero Nova, or is it Ergo Nova? I forget. You know, the latter is got like 125 mils worth of reach, so it adds a yard to the front of the bicycle. To demonstrate how much reach can differ, I mean, I've sort of slightly by accident come up with a way of demonstrating this. All three of these handlebars are sat on their backs like so. If you consider that the Data is generally the shortest that I can find, you look at the distance, the difference in terms of reach between the 3T and the Data. This is a 75mm handlebar in reach. The 3T is also a 75mm, supposedly. When you look at the Bontrager to the 3T, you know, it's significantly longer. So what that's going to do is it's going to add a significant amount of reach from the saddle, essentially. So you're going to increase the reach of the bicycle. And I guess if you kind of flip it on its head, I get guys who come in here and they've got a handlebar like this with like an 80mm stem on it. You'd have a 100mm stem if you just put a standard reach bar on it, or a shorter reach bar on it. So it's one way of winding down the reach without the bike looking less weird.
Yeah.
There's a lot of problems associated with excessive reach. You know, it tends to almost always have ramifications in the saddle. You know, riders experience saddle sores, genital numbness, all sorts of ailments like that as a result of excessive reach.
So what a fantastic way to reduce it in an inexpensive way.
Handlebar in this shop starts with about 35 quid.
Yeah.
And you go steadily up to sort of £300-400 depending on how integrated and how shiny you want the thing. I think it's also worth noting that, I mean, I personally prefer flat top bars, so this 3T is a little bit flatter on the top. Data does a bar called a 0100 and also a 02, which is a cheap version, which is a little bit flatter, so when you're climbing on the tops, it's a little bit more comfortable. This is a bit of an element of personal preference with handlebar choice, but I think the things you need to get your head around are the reach of the thing and the width.
So that's the basics covered. I've got 3 questions. Handlebar flare, pretty popular in gravel. What's it all about?
Well, seemingly it's come about as a means of trying to get a bag underneath in between the handlebars. Makes it easier, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, one could argue that it's wider, so therefore, you know, you have a little bit more stability off-road. I mean, my concern with that is that you're starting to see handlebars get really quite wide in the gravel stakes, and that's going to cause ergonomic problems. So I don't think I personally would condone it. But you know, it's each to their own. If you want to ride a wider handlebar, then you know, just don't complain to me when you get neck and shoulder issues.
Question number 2, flat bars. Clearly you don't measure them in the same way. They're used for mountain biking because you've got more control at low speed.
I think the one myth that I want to dispel, and it's probably more to do with the type of bike that you see with a handlebar like this, and I'm talking really about hybrids. I think the myth is that a flat handlebar is more comfortable than a drop handlebar. That's absolutely true if the drop handlebar is too bloody wide for you or the reach is too far away. Both things that can be influenced quite heavily on most bikes, and actually, you know, choice of bike, it becomes quite important there. But this ergonomically is absolutely categorically not a superior fit to a road handlebar. All right, think about it like this. Nobody stands like that. Equally, no one stands with the hands like this. Yeah. So if you stand naturally, your hands will fall by your side. So it makes perfect sense in my mind that your handlebars kind of want to be about that width, and your hand interaction wants to be sort of you know, a little bit like this. That's kind of why STI levers are shaped the way that they are, to allow them to fit into the webbing of your hand. So the question really is, why has this come about? A lot of it's down to control, particularly in the mountain biking stakes. A wider handlebar obviously gives you a much greater degree of control, and your purchase on the brake levers is generally improved on a bar like this. When you're looking into the mountain bike world, but I mean, this is actually quite a narrow bar. I've cut it down. The important thing to understand that a mountain bike position, generally speaking, it's less prone. You know, you have more weight through the saddle. It's also much more dynamic activity, so there is less emphasis on the interaction of the front end. So it's not likely to cause you as many issues.
Is that why people put those little thingies on the end?
Bar ends?
Yeah, so you can hold them like that.
But bar ends came about at a time in cycling where mountain bike handlebars were half the length of this, or half the width of this, sorry. So actually, a bar end would offer a similar
you just got bull
position to this.
Totally.
There's also Ergon who make, we get saddles from them, but they actually made their name in ergonomic grips, which stop you from dropping the wrist. So that's something that some people end up using with these.
So question number 3. What about traditional drop handlebars? We don't have any here to show people, but I'll flick up a picture here, or there, or maybe there.
I love a traditional drop handlebar. I used to ride them on a CADE 10. The difference is really that it adds extra reach. It does actually slightly increase the drop. So if you've got a compact bar like this, and then you move to a traditional drop, you lower the hoods by about 10 or 15 mil, and it also increases the reach quite a lot. But one of the benefits of a traditional drop bar is because the reach is orientated in a slope like this, actually getting to the brake lever is made a little bit easier. But that's kind of really the only benefit, seemingly.
Personal preference, huh?
Yeah, it's definitely a personal preference thing. But also, if you're able to tolerate it, a lot of riders won't necessarily be able to tolerate the additional reach that a traditional drop bar adds to the bike. But again, it all comes down to choice of bike. If you're going to buy a bike that's long and low, and then you're going to compound that with a long stem and then a traditional drop bar, you're going to get saddle problems.
Okay, so as things stand, this shop is currently open still. So I'll put a link down below if you want to book in for a fit with James or buy anything from the online store, which really helps. Questions for you down below if people want to know anything related to handlebars or suggestions for further episodes of Bike Fit Tuesdays.